NBA fans, you love if you're with them, and you hate if you're against them. On November 19th, 2004, the Pistons hosted the Pacers in the Palace of Auburn Hills, where this took place at the end of the game.
To walk past the Pacer bench to go. Now Artest has jumped over the scorer's table and is trying to get down to the bench. Artest is in the stands. Oh, this is awful. Fans are getting... You wonder if the official's going to let this game continue. Now they're throwing bottles out onto the floor. They hold Austin Crozier out. They won't let him get under the tunnel because they're afraid for his safety. They're pouring liquid over. What a disgraceful showing from the Pistons fans here.
Yeah, this guy. The Pacers were leading 97-82 with 45 seconds left in the game. Ron Artest hit Ben Wallace with a hard foul in the back. Nothing more or less than a hard basketball play. But our buddy Benny saw differently. Wallace charged at Artest and fired back with a hard shove, where a fight between these two teams ensued. As the fight was breaking up, Artest laid out on the scorer's table in an attempt to calm his emotions. And this is the exact moment where Artest met a face full of Bud Light, thrown by Pistons fan John Green. Enraged and looking for vengeance, Artest exploded up and charged the crowd of fans. In an attempt of finding the culprit, he mistakenly grabbed the wrong fan, Michael Ryan. This is when several players like Steven Jackson and Jermaine O'Neal proceeded to street fight fans as well. Several players were suspended. Fans were banned from Pistons games. Millions of dollars were lost. Cups, bottles, haymakers, even a chair was thrown, and the remainder of the game was cancelled. A disgraceful showing from the Pistons fans, said Mike Breen. These fans sucked. Big time. They escalated this already negative situation infinitely and unnecessarily. This prompted me to ask the question, who has the best and worst fan base? Well, this can be answered simply. The Celtics, 76ers, and Mavericks are known for having some of the best fan bases, right? Check out my good buddy Brandon over here. Brandon's rocking out to some Bon Jovi with his Celtic friends. What an awesome guy. Here's Spike Lee for the Knicks, an all-time legendary Knick fan. Or this guy, which I won't attempt to pronounce his name, but if you've seen any Raptors game, you have seen this guy. He has his own Google page for how much of a super fan he is for the Raptors. These are some great fans. Well, let's take a look at the other side of the spectrum, like Purple Shirt Man for the Hornets.
Wade, but I tell you what, Purple Shirt Man got to sit down, and somebody's got to control him.
No one wants to be a Purple Shirt Man. Or LeBron versus these Hawks fans.
Of the Cavaliers that set LeBron off in Cleveland.
This lady, wow.
Well, she's pointing like that one meme with the lady and the cat.
Or any fans versus Russell Westbrook.
And a fan with a little shot is a heady veteran.
Yeah, I think something.
I'm talking to you, bro. Just sit there with your wife and shut the up.
Or these Sixers fans.
And Ben Simmons picked up the loose ball at the other end, and that's the only time he's touched it, and the chorus of boos begin.
Actually, these boos are warranted for Bench Simmons. Okay. This can't answer who has the best fan base, because it's a fan base. They consist of thousands of millions of fans. The eye test can't truly determine just how good or bad a fan base is. Well, how about merchandise sales? Merchandise can represent the hundreds of thousands of fans who buy gear for their favorite teams in support of their favorite players, like jerseys. So going into the list from 2011 to 2022, LeBron James leads the 2022 top-selling NBA jerseys list, and 2021, and 2020, and 2019, and 2014, and 2013, and 2011. Stephen Curry led the list from 2018 to 2017 to 2016 and 2015, and Jeremy Lin led it in 2012. This is not the best way to determine the greatest fan base. How about ticket sales? I really like the idea of this until I realized that capacity varies. For example, the United Center, the arena of the Chicago Bulls, can fit up to 23,000 fans, whereas the Smoothie King Center, the arena for the Pelicans, can only fit up to 16,000 fans. Determining fan bases from ticket sales is going to show a biasness towards arenas that are much larger than smaller market arenas, so this wouldn't really help us out. Maybe this is going to be more complicated than I anticipated. So I did some Googling and I found this article on Yahoo Sports, which reads, Lakers fans are the NBA's most loyal and engaged. This article explains how Michael Lewis of Emory University analyzed NBA fan loyalty and engagement using 3 metrics: fan equity, road equity, and social equity. I very much liked this idea to determine the best fan base. Here's a list that he made. But I still was not satisfied. It didn't show me all the research and all the work it took to develop this list, all the statistics, numbers, and percentages. So I took it upon myself to create my own list and show you guys my work. Using statistics, numbers, percentages, and a lot of time, I created the most analytically perfect, statistically exact list as to which fan bases are the best and which fan bases are the worst, and ranked them accordingly. Stay tuned because the answers might surprise you. Before answering this question, let's lay down the bricks that'll shape how we answer this question. We determined fan base loyalty on two easily available metrics: attendance and social media followings. Firstly, attendance. If you were in a coma for the last 3 years, we've been dealing with this thing called COVID. You know, it's killed millions of people, an airborne virus that's infected 500 million people, pretty much canceled all social activity for a long time. It kinda sucked. Anyway, I specifically excluded the 2019-2020 and the 2020-2021 seasons due to COVID. Although arenas were reopened for the 2020 and 2021 season, they weren't opened at 100% capacity for most of the season, which would create inconsistencies in our list. So I took the total amount of attendance for all 30 teams from the last 12 seasons, excluding 2019 through 2021. With these numbers, I was also able to pull the average attendance per game of these teams. To find this, divide the total amount of attendance for that season by 41. 41 is how many home games there are per season, and we're looking for the average attendance per game of every NBA team of the last 12 seasons. I also took into account the 2011-2012 lockout season, where the NBA held a lockout for 161 days. The lockout reduced the amount of games played this season to 66 instead of the regular 82 game season. This means that for this season alone, I had to divide the total amount of attendance by 33. 33 was how many home games each team had this season. Now we need to find the total average attendance per game for the last 12 seasons. To find this, add all 12 of your values per team and divide by 12. Boom, average found. Numbers are looking great so far. Lastly, we need to find the average percentage of the arena filled for each one of these seasons and each one of these games, based off the average attendance per game. Here's where things got a little complicated. To find the percentage of the arena filled per season, all we have to do is divide the average attendance per game by the capacity of each team's arena, and then multiply it by 100. Simple, right? Just Google the capacity of each team's arena to find the answer. Halfway through doing this is when I realized my one crucial mistake. Arenas go through renovations really often. Also, several teams for the past 12 seasons have moved to different arenas. For example, the Nets have played in the Izod Center, the Prudential Center, and now the Barclays Center. So each one of those arenas had different capacities, and now I had to take into account all the different teams and all the different arenas that they've played in over the last 12 seasons. So I restarted my list. For every team, every arena, I researched their capacity for that corresponding season and correctly divided the numbers for that corresponding season. I hope that kind of makes sense. So for example, the Hawks have had multiple renovations throughout the years. So the Hawks capacity from 2014 to 2017 could fit up to 18,047 fans. And from 2018 to now could only fit 16,600 fans. From 2014 to 2017, they averaged 16,734 fans per game. And from 2018 to now, 15,686, which means that from 2014 to 2017, the average percentage of arena filled was 92%, and from 2018 to now was 97%, which roughly averaged out to 94% from 2014 to now. I really hope that makes sense. And don't worry, I took into account every single arena of every single team, so you can be sure that your favorite team's statistics are the most accurate. Oh yeah, and here's the work that went behind it. For some reference, I had to get 30 teams' total attendance for the last 12 seasons, which automatically is 360 values. Then I also had to collect their attendance per game per season, which was another 360 values, plus I had to collect their averages for total attendance, their average attendance per game of all the seasons combined, plus their capacity and the percentage of the arena filled, which is 120 more values, rounding out to 840 values recorded. One more note, if you're only seeing one number for arena capacity, it's because I just threw in their most recent arena capacity. I couldn't fit more numbers in there. Alrighty, all of that out of the way, now we have social media followings. This one was very simple, very easy. Just record each team's Instagram and Twitter followers and combine them, and boom, you have your statistics. These statistics, although much simpler to record, were much more shocking. It's amazing to me that the Jazz, who have been one of the best regular season teams in the last 5 years, only have 2.3 million followers in total. Are we serious right now? They have less followers than Skip Bayless on Twitter alone? Where are all the Utah fans at? Where are you guys? They only have 9% of the amount of social media followings that the Warriors have on Instagram alone. Jesus. Anyway, it's very simple yet very effective. So with everything we recorded, we have our rankings in for the best and worst fan bases in the NBA. Checking out our attendance chart first. The Nets shockingly at the bottom with the Pistons. I guess the NBA banned all Pistons fans after the Malice at the Palace, huh? Oh, not funny. Okay. Anyway, the Nets in the last 12 seasons have been generally bad. Looking at the last 2 seasons with the addition of Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, eventually they will rise on this list, but for now, stuck all the way at the bottom. Moving on, we see the Wolves, Wizards, and Hornets, who would have predictably been down here. They aren't huge markets that attract big named free agents, so again, no surprise. But the Nuggets and 76ers? The 76ers I'm not so surprised about. They were bad for all of the last decade up until Mr. Trust the Process came along. But the Nuggets? I guess back-to-back MVP Nikola Jokic and the success of the 2010 Nuggets haven't attracted as many fans to games as I would have suspected. Moving on, this part of the chart looks ordinary again. Even the Bucks being down here. Let's be honest, the Bucks haven't been even remotely good since the departure of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar like almost a million years ago. Since 2018, Giannis has blown up the league. If I made this list from 2008 to 2018, the Bucks would have been dead last by a landslide. So Giannis is making a real impact here for Milwaukee for the short amount of time that he's been here. Now we see the Raptors, Magic, Pelicans, Clippers, and Rockets. Canada needs at least one basketball team to root for. DeMar, Kyle Lowry, and the Claw have kept up the attendance for the Raptors at 92% over the last decade. The Magic being higher than a lot of teams on this list is surprising, considering that they've been towards the bottom of team success for the past decade. And the same could be said for the Pelicans with Anthony Davis. Clippers, the little brother in Los Angeles, still having a 95% attendance is very solid, and the Rockets at 95% as well. James Harden is a big reason why the attendance is near perfect for H-Town. And with the addition of Chris Paul in the late 2010s and helping out with some playoff success, sort of, there's no shock as to why H-Town is this high. Next we have the Celtics, Spurs, Suns, Thunder, Jazz, Knicks, Cavaliers, and Warriors. That was a mouthful. The Celtics are very surprising that they're not at least 99% on this list. Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, Ray Allen, Kyrie Irving, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. They have been solid playoff contenders for the entirety of the 2010s. And for how much credit the Boston fans receive for being the best fans in sports, this one's surprising. My only guess is maybe there's more baseball fans or football fans in Boston, maybe even hockey, who knows. And the Warriors at 99%, near perfect. Yeah, having the one player that revolutionized the game of basketball will do that for you. In the Final Four, we have the Heat, Lakers, Trailblazers, and Mavericks. Here's the real surprise. The Portland Trailblazers at 99.93%. Looking through the rosters, they really have nobody except Damian Lillard. I guess the fans in Portland are just as real as Damian. Easily the most surprising on this list. Finally, the Mavericks, who somehow sit at 100.04%. How achieving higher than 100% is possible is hard to wrap your head around. But they did it. The only team to have over 100%. Oh, wait a second. If you're a fan of this team, you could obviously tell that you were missing from this list. But let me assure you, you're not missing. You're sitting alone, at the top. The Chicago Bulls, 102.12%. I really can't understand how you could possibly have 2.12% more than perfect, but they did it with the Mavericks, so that's great. Chicago has been through a lot. Derrick Rose, the injury, the comeback, Jimmy Butler, Zach LaVine, and now DeMar DeRozan. Big compliments go to the Bulls and the Trailblazers for sticking through the thick and thin, ranked as the best teams in attendance for the last 12 seasons. Now for social media. We won't be reviewing too much from this chart for obvious reasons, because excluding the top 2 teams, it's pretty much a plateau, an absolute avalanche of followers for the Warriors and Lakers. Like I said reviewing the last chart, the revolution of the NBA, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and when Kevin Durant was on this team, it'll be really hard not to have such a massive following. And the Lakers, Los Angeles is enormous. And every Hollywood star probably follows the Lakers alongside their followers too. The Cavaliers and Heat on this list is just another example of the LeBron James effect. The Bulls and Celtics also have massive amounts of followers. These teams I listed were the only teams to crack 10+ million followers. It's surprising that New York's favorite team, the Knicks, only have 5.6. I would have predicted at least 10. And if I'm being honest, to have anything less than 5 million for an NBA team is pretty sad. Social media is older than most of the people watching this video, and basketball is older than most of our parents. So, come on guys, we gotta start picking it up. Wrapping up our rankings is the final chart. I gave the best teams from each chart 30 points. The worst team got 1 point, and you can guess the rest. We have the Pistons with a whopping 3 points, ranking dead last and considered the worst fan base. Sorry, Pistons fans. For the rest of the list, excluding the top 5, I'll let you guys look at it and kind of just think. Anyway, for the top 5 NBA fan base rankings, we have the Cavaliers and Heat tied at 52 points. The Warriors take 3rd place with 55 points, the Lakers won 2nd place with 56 points, and the winners of the NBA fan base ranking, sitting above all other teams, the best fan base in the NBA, go to the Chicago Bulls with 57 out of the 60 points. This is my personal list for the best and worst NBA fan bases. It's not perfect. In actuality, it's pretty far from perfect, but in my opinion, it's the most solid, analytically and statistically solid list. But let's be real, you're not the worst fan in the NBA because you're a Pistons, Wizards, or Nuggets fan. And you're not the best fan because you're a Bulls, Lakers, or Warriors fan. Because at the end of the day, these are literally just numbers, and numbers don't define you as a fan. Yeah, the Pistons have the worst attendance rating because they don't have a great basketball player on their team, and they haven't had one for a very long time. There's a trend here. The better your team is in the past 12 seasons, the higher they place on this list. It's just common sense. That's because sometimes we don't want to see our team constantly lose. It's unfortunate, and it truly hurts to see our favorite players fail. And you don't have to follow your favorite team on Instagram and Twitter, or show up to their games to be a great fan. Games are expensive, and even some of the best fans can't afford them. Being a truly great fan does not require any of that stuff. Being a great fan is accepting that your team will lose sometimes, or even most times. Being a great fan is accepting the challenge of failure to see how hard your team will bounce back. And if they fail again, knowing that you truly believe in your team. Being a great fan is accepting that there are better teams than your team, and respecting and enjoying watching those teams. Being a great fan is being able to share with your friends and family how much you love your team, and showing compassion and love for their favorite teams. Going out drinking, or hanging out with your buddies eating pizza and watching your favorite team win or lose by 30. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how much your team wins or loses by. Being a great fan of your team is being a great fan of all teams, and a great fan of the beautiful game we call basketball. Except Pistons fans, you guys actually do suck. Thanks for watching.